through a number of takes and we keep on going.
Okay. So I can just start anytime?
Yep, you bet.
All right. That's hot. That's not hot. That's hot. Not hot. That's hot. All right.
Good.
Because we can,
All right.
we can edit. Was that okay? Like,
Inviting a variety of your audience to actually look at your work and to say, does that even resonate with them?
So not forcing an answer between 5 choices.
Absolutely, and to me, that also gets at objectivity in a very different way.
The emotional truth is important, but then it's important what you do with it.
Hello, welcome to this edition of What's Hot. With me, I have Dr. Grace Liang. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Dr. Liang, if you could, for our viewers, tell them a little bit about your background and the kind of qualitative research you do, that would be very helpful.
Okay. The research I have been conducting or particularly interested in are related to gender, race, ethnicity, particularly in the field of leadership. The research I have been involved with over the years are particularly related to diversity in the leadership and also the professional development for teachers in the STEM field. My dissertation actually was on principals and system principals. So I look into their understanding of leadership and how they actually make connection of their professional and personal identities in their school environment.
Excellent. What kind of qualitative research do you do?
I would say right now, I kind of still consider myself I pretty much consider myself a lifelong learner. In terms of qualitative research, I will still consider myself at kind of early stage. So I'm very much open. But I guess to me, doing qualitative research or any kind of research, I think it's developmental. So let's say right now, maybe they're saying or quote or terminology is kind of traditional qualitative research. For me, it's not necessarily a bad terminology for that. And I think, as I said, it's developmental. So maybe a lot of people already done and they have more grasp in terms of how they structure it, how they put different language in able to for early stage researchers or even students to can easy for them to grab. So I can see myself still in that, not like very early, probably still at early stage in terms of developmental stages. So I guess myself is more comfortable in a way like a structure in a sense, but not necessarily limited. So as I'm saying is I'm open, but in a sense I know right now at this stage, it's probably easy or not easy, it's more comfortable for me to have a clear in sense of guidelines or structures, help me to know what the qualities of whether qualitative research or any kind of research entails. But I definitely see, I kind of make that analogy. It's kind of like say, okay, I'm good at driving small cars, and then do I want to drive big car in the future? Yeah, probably, because I like big car. But right now, I'm not comfortable doing that. And also, small car has its advantages compared to big cars. But of course, in terms of powerfulness, the big car probably can pull in more. So that's the way I'm looking at myself in terms of doing research, particularly on the quality research. There are different ways for you to look at the data because it's just like human beings, you have different senses. Why are we using all of them? Because that helps us to look at pictures. But some people may be more comfortable using language. Some people will probably be more comfortable drawing. They have different usage in different way, but it's a way for us to understand the world. So as I see myself in the future time, as I'm more developed or more into the field, had a better understanding in terms of some of the kind of, I would say, a little bit new areas in terms of quality research, like art-based or other different, I call it modality because using different senses. And I can see myself doing that in the future. But I honest right now, since I'm, still consider myself early stage qualitative researcher, I'm more in a sense I am utilize better what so-called those traditional tools. So for me, because my dissertation study was using case study, so I would say I'm probably more comfortable using that. And also, I guess fundamentally or essentially, or not essentially, fundamentally is I consider any kind of methodology is a tool. So no tool is perfect for everything. So in that sense, even for one tool, the skill for the level of the user also make that have an effect on how well you can use that tool. So I kind of see myself, the two lines combining together is how well my ability to use that tool or how the tool is designed for me to do certain things, but not everything. So I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Excellent. So it sounds to me like one of the things that you're saying is that there's this methodology could be seen as a tool, and then you can be at a beginner level with the tool or an intermediate level or be the power user of the tool. And then sometimes the tools use you too, or you get shaped or defined by the tool as well. And then there is this relationship that you have with tools. So now that's your relationship with case study at the moment. And most of your work would then be considered inductive analysis and interpretive inquiry. Then. Okay, excellent, excellent. As you have seen qualitative research by being in the field, by being a student of the field, what excites you? What do you think is hot in qualitative research?
I think as a field, we get more, well, I'm talking about maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Back then, people still talking about like, okay, how we kind of match up this kind of validity, reliability. So it's kind of like standards still using the quantitative side. And you can still see clearly this kind of division about quantitative and qualitative. But now I can't think of the line start, well, the continuum is no longer really the two model or two modes and starting kind of blurring. So that's good. And I think for me, the most exciting part is we're really starting as a field to explore different, like I said, the way we look at the data.
That's hot.
And even the way we report data or analyze or interpret data. One time I was at ICQI, and I was just amazed about the ethno drama. Of course, and when I was at UGA as a graduate student, we actually tried out, and I did a poem, use the transcript or use the data from my own pilot study. So I think it's kind of like you using different lens or different language in a sense, but still you can able to capture things which not just limited by words or certain structures, because I think most of the time we're still doing this kind of I constantly use this tradition, but it's not a bad word. So it's kind of traditional way, or different discipline have different ways, like for your dissertation or for even publication in journals, they're looking at certain things. In some ways, it is very structured. They expect that the components are there. But I think the exciting part for me is the exploration to try to break that boundary or break that mold into attempting different way to understand the people or the topic or the phenomenon we're actually looking into. And it become more inviting, because if you invite, like I said, some people may not be necessarily good at words, but they have this affinity to drawings, to poem, and that's a different way to actually inviting a variety of your audience to actually look at your work and just say, does that even resonate with them? Or to that sense, that's kind of like you're actually building more trustworthy for your study because they can, using their way to see if you make your research participants or population their word to be able to communicate it to a wider audience. So that's what I'm thinking very exciting part.
So if I could rephrase that or paraphrase it, so what's hot is the new directions that qualitative research has taken to move beyond, the dichotomy of validity, reliability, quant, to more creative ways of knowing, and then that makes sort of a multimodal sensory experience for not just the researcher, but anybody who's engaging with the research.
That's hot.
Excellent, excellent. Are there things in qualitative research that don't excite you, that's not hot for you?
I wish, coming out of different programs, people do train differently. But I think whether as a faculty, a researcher, or even just as a human beings, I think there's a line for you to, for me at least, that's a fundamental principle is remain open and be respectful. And I know the quality of research or publication out there diverse. So maybe the critical question, anybody, or at least from what I'm looking at it, is asking the question, are this work I'm reading or looking at a quality work or representative work of that kind of approach to understand the world? If not, then maybe the next question is, maybe I should look for the quality ones. And then if I don't necessarily agree with their epistemology, then at least I can respect or look at their line of work to see, okay, that's the way they made their line of rationale or line of analysis or line of interpretation or representation. At least I can respect, but just understand we coming from different friend. So it's kind of like, give you a simple example. People talk about cultural differences, and at least when I was growing up, riding a bicycle is nowhere close to fun. It's just a transportation, tool. But here, people mostly use bicycle to do exercises. It's kind of like a more entertainment or relaxing. So, are we talking about the same thing? Yeah. Are we talking about different things? Yes, we are. So we look at the same thing in some sense, like a physical thing, but we kind of taking different lanes to look at it because it's just different context. So I think that's why I think it's important from either as a faculty or researcher or even just as a teacher, is really a responsibility for us to kind of asking yourself the question, and also as a teacher help your student to understand it's a tool. Everything involved is just you based on some certain kind of values, or you making certain kind of judgmental choices. So in that way, you kind of like set up a kind of safeguard in a sense, rather than kind of jump into a quick judgmental call or making sort of criticism. Because I think when we talk about critical thinking, sometimes we probably, in some extent, kind of took it too far. You can be critical thinker, but still be very respectful and gentle. Because it's kind of like when you're reading somebody's work, you need to understand where they're coming from before you kind of say, oh, it's not really fits my framework, so I'm just going to dismiss it.
That's not hot.
And that's damaging because you have not get the whole picture, at least maybe say majority of the context yet. So I think that's probably when I think of myself as a researcher or faculty, even most importantly, teachers, that's something I really emphasize throughout my teaching.
Excellent. So what's not hot then would be when people take criticisms from their own paradigm and then imply it to somebody else's paradigm. So, for example, if somebody's doing deconstructive work and they look at phenomenology, and they're criticizing phenomenology from a deconstructive perspective. So that's not hot.
Well, if you want make constructive criticism, then at least I guess it's admit I'm knowing maybe the domain I'm really know inside out, but that's a domain I'm not necessarily knowing.
Right.
So at least said kind of like it kind of reminds me how you define your case.
Yeah.
So yeah, every tool has its shortcomings
Right.
and strengths, but you want to make that very clear up front. Say, okay, this is my boundary. That's how I look at it within
Right.
this boundary.
Right.
But you cannot make that kind of like universal statement.
Right,
That's
right.
kind of the damaging part for me, at least.
No, that's very valuable, and our students have to read a lot of things and understand and become discerning of different things. So that's a skill they would also have to engage in as well. Before we leave, what might be some tips and strategies you might want to offer to students who are meeting qualitative research for the first time?
I think one of the misunderstanding, given kind of my experience with students, kind of first kind of had their first contact with qualitative research, is they thinking, oh, okay, I just go with the flow, since we don't really have a clear, not fixed research question or framework doesn't mean it's not clear. Okay, so I think there's a diction behind that. So if you come in that kind of mindset, then you kind of lost the strength or the richness the qualitative research approach can actually provide in you. I think Stake probably say that too, is you're not coming into qualitative research with absent-minded. That's totally different. You still have, but it's not fixated framework. That's because you want to really get to know your data well and let the data speak to you. But that doesn't mean you are total value free or frame free when you actually come into the field. So I think my advice, the most important thing I want my student to take when they actually either get into my course and when they finish and leave, is really understand the methodology is a tool to help you to really dig into the phenomenon or the question you have. So since it's a tool, it can be further developed, it can be mastered, but it can be changed too. Like that's how I feel about myself, is a developmental good tool. Maybe at this stage, it's good enough at this stage. But once you develop, the tool also developed. So there's another relationship you need to build with your research question, but also with your tool.
That's hot.
So if you think that way, then you realize, okay, I may learn this tool at this context. It doesn't mean that's the only tool I'm supposed to be using. It doesn't mean other tools out there will not be applicable to my research question. So in that way, you kind of educated yourself, become open-minded, but also become a critical thinker. What time I should be using, or it's the best way for me to using this tool, this type of tools, or under different contexts, I may be thinking another type of tools. So in that way, you actually become critical thinker, but also a very aware of the context when you choose your tools or methodology. So I think that's probably the advice I want my students to take away.
Okay.
If they're taking my class.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for your time. This was another episode of What's Hot, What's Not in Qualitative Research. Thanks for viewing.